Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Letting Go Cafe's podcast with conversations about change. I'm Darren L. Johnson, and let's just dive right in.
Welcome to Letting Go Café, offers change and solution, live conversations, and real talk for you. Letting Go Café.
Adults and teens alike struggle with negative self talk. For some, it is never overcome. And then for others, they have mastered the art of positive self talk. We're going to have a gentle conversation today based on Sean Covey's book, and I'll share the title with you in just a few minutes. But first, I want to introduce my guest to the show today. This is a young lady who is going into her senior year of high school. She's 17. She's talented. She's intelligent. She's smart. She's amazing in her own right. And she has done some amazing things in her short time span as a performer. She attends Douglas Anderson School for the Arts, known locally here as DA, and she's in the vocal department. And before coming to Douglas Anderson, she had performed in certain parts of Central Florida. She had performed during the halftime show for the Heat basketball team. She had performed in Arkansas before for the 4-H program, and she's done performances in other parts as well. She opened up for a vegan restaurant in Jacksonville, singing couple of wonderful songs at the restaurant there. I just happened to have been there. And so this young lady has agreed to join us just to have a conversation about negative self-talk and how it impacts us. And her name is Imala Johnson. And Imala, I just want to welcome you to the show and thank you for taking the time to have the conversation with me.
No problem.
Is there anything you want to add to the introduction that I failed to mention?
No, that's all good. You got it.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So we're going to be pulling from a book that Sean Covey wrote called 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. This book has been around since 1998. And for some people, including Imala, this may be considered old, but the concepts in the book are actually on point. And he really lays out a roadmap for teenagers to be able to improve their personal development. And Sean Covey, for those who may be wondering, yes, if the name sounds familiar to those parents out there, he's the son of Stephen Covey. And Stevie Covey authored and published the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People years and years ago. And so Sean is his son, and Sean now runs Franklin Covey, which is the company that Stephen Covey started. This is an opportunity for us to really pull on some of the concepts in Sean Covey's book. And again, this is 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. At the end of our conversation today, we'll offer some solutions, actions that you can take with your teenager that will allow the internal dialogue to perhaps be more positive. And our goal today is simply to share information, to plant some seeds that will allow you and your teenager to think differently and be better. So one of the things that Sean Covey mentions in his book is about being gentle with yourself. And he says, be gentle, be honest. The actions of your internal thoughts can really do damage if you're not careful. And he also says to renew yourself and take time to renew yourself and relax. Take time to step away from things whenever you need to. He also talks about proactive versus reactive internal conversation. And so one of the habits that he pushes in his book is it's actually called Be Proactive. And he talks about what proactive people do and what they're what characteristics make up a proactive person. So Imala, from your perspective, how important is internal conversation for teenagers?
I think that it is very important. I think just not just for teenagers, but for people, grown-ups, older people, little children. It's self-talk or just negative self-talk, whether it's negative or positive, is one of the most powerful things that we deal with every day, because it's the conversation that we have with ourselves that can either lift us up or hold us back. Obviously, positive conversation can uplift us, motivate us, help us to, complete daily activities, or even like get up out of bed every morning.
Mhm.
While negative self-talk can incorporate doubt and limit us to what we do, and really keep us in that shell that we have for ourselves.
Yeah. I
And
think, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and I think that for me personally, the key isn't getting rid of it, but because the thoughts are always going to be there no matter what. But I think it's about becoming aware and deciding how we respond, and deciding, to push forward and still believe in ourselves, and push forward and believe in ourselves even when that inner voice is telling us otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think you're on point. And I love the fact that you acknowledged both positive and negative because it is there. Everybody deals with it, no matter how amazing we might think a person is, or no matter how amazing a person may think they are. What I'd like to do is to walk through some of the concepts in Sean Covey's book. And again, if you're just tuning in and you missed the first part of this, we're talking about Sean Covey, who in 1998 wrote a book called Seven Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And this is the book that we are speaking about. We're here with Imala Johnson, who is going into her senior year at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts in Jacksonville, Florida, better known as DA. So, Imala, let's go through a couple of the concepts or ideas, notions, if you will, that Sean put in his book. And let's just generally talk about each one. One of the concepts in his book is to be gentle with yourself. So what does that mean to you as a teenager in high school? Be gentle with yourself and thinking in terms of internal conversation. What does that mean? What would that mean to you if I were to say, be gentle with your internal conversation?
um I think it means to recognize that you're human, and to recognize that you're gonna make mistakes and feel emotions, and you're gonna have self-doubt, and you're gonna question your worth, or you're gonna think that maybe you're not enough. That's, you're human, and you're allowed to feel those emotions, and you're allowed to feel that way. It's normal. And I think being gentle with yourself is recognizing that and
Mm,
saying, you know what, it's okay. I'm okay. I'll get through this,
mm,
and I'll be okay, and I'll push through.
yeah,
And to reassure yourself and validate your own feelings, and
yeah,
just comfort yourself and tell yourself it's okay.
yeah. That's good. I like that. I like that. And we're going to talk about some solutions in a few minutes, but I think that's wonderful. I appreciate that. And I don't have anything to add to that. And so there's another concept that Sean Covey mentioned in his book, and that's to be honest with yourself and to that the actions, that our internal thoughts actually have actions. So he says it takes courage to be honest with yourself about what you might be saying. So you may be saying something this, for example, I'm not enough, but the honesty comes in that it's okay to feel that way and that conversation actually exists and recognizing it. Because if you don't recognize it, you can't move beyond it, right? And I'm basically repeating what you said. But he's saying be honest with yourself about that. And then the next thing, and you already tapped into this, he talks about renewing yourself. And he says to relax and take time to step away from things. And that's really important as well. And you already talked about that. So I appreciate you covered all three of those points in your in your response, which is great. The other thing that he mentioned is proactive versus reactive. And he gave some examples, and I'm going to share some of these for our listeners. Reactive internal conversation might be something like, I'll try, or there's nothing I can do, or I have to, or I can't, or my day has been ruined by you. So, in other words, putting it off on someone else, how you're actually feeling. And then he gave a proactive way to say the same thing or something that you can convert that conversation to be more proactive. And that's I'll instead of saying I'll try, saying I'll do it. I'll do it because I have to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of the word try. You don't try to do something. You either do it or you don't. And so, and so I'm not a big fan of thinking that, oh, I'm going to try, but you're either going to commit or you're not. And so that's the way I see it. There's nothing I can do. The proactive approach in terms of your internal conversation is let's look at all of our options because there are always options to being able to do something. And then the proactive response to I have to is to change that to I choose to. I choose to do this. Make it a choice of yours. And that actually increases the accountability and the responsibility if you actually choose to do something. Were you going to say something, Imelda? Oh, okay. Okay. And then it says I can't. And the proactive response to that is there's got to be a way. There has to be a way to get this done. And then reactive on you ruined my day is I am not going to let someone else's bad mood rub off on me. In other words, I'm not going to be affected by how someone else feels. I'm going to make sure I tune into my own feelings. And he calls this the victim virus. Victim is reactive, and to move away from that is proactive. So, what are your thoughts around that, Imala? What are your thoughts from a teenager's perspective?
I think that for me personally, reactive versus proactive language falls into a category of procrastination.
Hmm.
Telling yourself, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to do my homework tonight, finish this project, go work out, and then just not doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
that over time, breaking those small promises to yourself can cause, disdain for yourself. It can cause you to not like yourself
Mhm.
or cause you to just feel bad about yourself, feel bad for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree, and I think that he talks about that. He hints on that. He doesn't drill down into it, but he does hint on that in his book. And he also talks about circle of control, focusing on the things that you can control versus things that you can't control. So, for example, when someone says or does something to you that's disrespectful, he's saying, you know, rather than rather than flashing a bird, you know, flash a peace sign in response to whatever they might say. So that's something you control is how you react, is what he's saying. Uh, listen to yourself and catch yourself saying negative things or reactive words and try to convert them. Like if you're saying things like, why can't they? I don't understand why they don't just change the rule. Why are they making us walk on this side of the hallway in school? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Instead of that, he's saying, try to think about it as, well, um, I can choose to walk on this side. The side that I'm told to walk on, I can choose to do that. I can choose to follow the guideline. I can choose to do this or that. And he says, write down every time you say something, you catch yourself saying something negative, and then go back and see how often you do it. Because that's one way to heighten your awareness. And you mentioned heightening awareness in the beginning. And then he says, write yourself a positive message and play it back or read it back to yourself on a daily basis. And he gave some examples. I'm awesome. I'm intelligent. I'm joyful. I'm not going to let other people determine how I feel. I'm going to, I determine how I feel. Things like that. Writing those down are actually ways that you can overcome some of the negative self-talk. If someone sends you a mean or rude text, and rather than respond right away, he's suggesting pause. Don't respond right away. Process it, take it in, be objective, see if you contributed to it, and then respond from that perspective as opposed to responding out of anger. And the last thing he recommended is if you get into a disagreement with your parents or a friend, that be the first to say, I apologize, and always look for how you may have contributed to that disagreement and recognize it and then move from there. So those are some things that he recommends as solutions. Do you have any things that you have done, any actions you've taken to overcome any kind of negative talk for yourself? Imala, have you experienced anything where you've had to overcome it? And what did you do? Like, what did that look like? What did it sound like?
For me, it's more so telling myself, you're not good enough for this, or you can't do this because you don't have this skill, or you shouldn't do this because everyone else is so much more talented or better at this, whatever this is, than you.
Mm,
So, I have to just tell myself it's not about the other people, it's about me. And
mm,
I shouldn't focus on whether or not this person is better at whatever it is that I am. I should focus on where I am in that moment and where my skill level is and what I can do to improve and be better, not for them, but for me.
mm. Yeah, good point. And then you go out and you do your best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I tell you, when I've seen you perform, and when you perform, there's no indication of self-doubt ever. Once you get on stage, you're into it. You're all there. You're 100% focused on what you have to do. And I think that there's no indication that you have ever had any doubt once you show up for your performance. And I think that's important. And I think that's a reflection of what you just said, that conversation that you're having with yourself along the way. So, yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Well, we hope that these solutions that we just mentioned will help you and your teenager along the way. And I want to first thank Imala for taking the time to join on this podcast today. I also want to thank you, listener, for tuning in. And I think we're going to go ahead and wind down. We could talk about this all day probably, but I think we've given enough for you to be able to take this and have a good conversation with your teenager. Maybe even listen to this together with your teenager and have a conversation over lunch or over dinner or in your favorite coffee shop where you talk about negative versus positive conversations. Until next time, take care.
Letting Go Cafè.